everyone, it's Adam and Sam back again with another really natural, organic intro where we pretend that we haven't been speaking to each other for the past 30 seconds or so setting up equipment, and then we go, hey Sam, how's it going?
It's totally, yeah.
Right, let's take a look at the headline, shall we? That's what you're here for. Major backstage changes in WWE, including hirings and firings. Snoop Dogg has been chatting about how WWE were unhappy with his AEW Dynamite appearance, and the first ever New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Champion has been crowned. So we are kicking things off with some very interesting news indeed regarding Nick Khan, the WWE President and Chief Revenue Officer, a man that was hired about 9 months ago now, and a guy who has been shaking things up, and he continues to do a lot more of that, with many claiming that essentially Nick Khan has been given the keys to the kingdom in WWE. So this is a report from PW Insider. Talking about the general direction that Khan would like to take the company in. And he's obviously a very, very trusted individual in WWE, so expect to see this happen. We're already seeing some of it with regards to the hirings and firings that have played out over the last few weeks. But they state that Khan's vision is apparently something akin to the Marvel and DC cinematic universes. He wants to build relationships that help the company and its talent bleed over into the mainstream through crossover appeal. This is obviously something that WWE have been trying to do for a very long time, but given Khan's background in Hollywood, it looks as though he's going to be the guy to do it, Sam.
Yeah, he's replacing certain staff with people he used to represent at his old talent agency, and it's simply because, as you said, they're more Hollywood centric, and they are able to talk the lingo. They know, all the connections. They have all the media etiquette and resumes there that will get them, in through those doors that WWE so far has maybe just been able to edge their foot into before it's like slammed shut on them. But long-term staff that were released in the wake of all of this included Nicole Zeoli, who was the Director of Talent Relations. Longtime WWE referee John Cone had his Talent Relations Department position vacated. Dan Engler as well, referee Rudy Charles, he was also gone from the Talent Relations Department. And of course, Mark Carrano was the last big profile release
of
we've
course
seen.
It's got to be noted that John Cone, although he was let go from that role in talent relations, he was going to continue reffing. There was a bit of backlash here. And one of these, certainly one of the more prominent Nick Carr shake-ups was the release of John Cone from that secondary role. And even Mick Foley putting out a tweet saying, personally, I thought John Cone did a very good job as senior management of talent relations for WWE. I thoroughly enjoyed working with John on many occasions over the past several years. Maybe the company will rethink that decision. Atting on Twitter, Triple H, Steph, and Vince McMahon. As far as Khan's vision goes, I mean, it's, as I say, something that WWE have wanted to do for a long, long time. They've had great success all the way back in, the rock and wrestling era of WWE. That Hollywood connection, that pop culture connection is something that they've always wanted to tap into, that they will continue to do again and again. For me, the thing that bothers me is that, I mean, it's in the name, isn't it? It's World Wrestling Entertainment. However much they try and play it down as sports entertainment and that, to me, I get the impression for a long time that we have been sort of shamed for being wrestling fans. And when the company that we're meant to be getting behind and standing up for WWE, when the company themselves are trying to bury that wrestling connection, it's not even a connection, the basis of their entertainment
the canvas that it's all painted on.
Why that tells us as fans that maybe that shame is just, and it isn't. It will always be a wrestling company. That's their bread and butter. It goes, and I understand why they want to move into Hollywood. I totally get that. And it makes perfect sense. But when they downplay the wrestling, that really bothers me, because why get passionate about something if the company themselves want to hide that?
Well, I think part of this vision it's going to be it's less Hollywood in terms of making it very, very theatrical and everything, more in line with possibly tying into the recent hires of actual broadcast journalists, like real sports journalists, bringing them
Adnan
in, giving
Virk
it a real...
and Megan Moran recently employed.
A real feel and just building off that and the connections you can get through Hollywood alone through celebrity involvement, and that's the key, is if they can do it in a way where it's similar to WrestleMania 1 with everything that happened there, all the celebrity involvement with that, then it'll feel a little bit more organic. But if it just comes out and it's, it's super duper Hollywood, and the building films about the Undertaker and
it worries me a little bit with the hiring of all these sports broadcasters. I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, because I think generally they are. Adnan was obviously a bit rough around the edges, but he was new into it, and that I sort of miss hearing the commentary team and the backstage interviewers and all that sort of stuff being really passionate about wrestling. I think that's one thing that you miss. When you hire these experienced, super good, like really professional sports commentators, is that you lose that passion.
But they ease into it. I mean, if you're going to get passionate about wrestling, there's nowhere more perfect for you to be made passionate about it by your time there. And I think. By being in and around it, you'll either really get into it or you'll just be like, nah, it's not for me, and move on.
You know what? I think back to the best commentators ever, and they're the people that were passionate about wrestling for a long time. It's the JRs, it's the Heenans, it's the Heymans.
For sure.
And I don't know, I just feel like they add to the overproduced sort of feel of WWE TV by being there. I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, they're just following directions. But essentially, with this story, expect to see more of that. Expect to see more attempts at crossovers. And there's going to be big changes to not just behind the scenes, but also to the on-screen product. PW Insider, it should be noted, gave an update on Cone's termination. It's literally just broken in the last few hours. Saying that although some places are reporting that the talent relations department, his role there has that role is over, there are other reports emerging that has been rescinded. So we'll keep you updated on John Cone's whereabouts within the company. Next up, let's talk about Snoop Dogg. I've wanted to for weeks now and finally got my opportunity. Snoop Dogg has been chatting about how upset WWE were when he appeared on AEW television. Appearing on Hot 97's Embro in the Morning, he said that his appearance was simply tied to his involvement with the Go Big show, on which Cody is obviously a judge. And he said, "Let me tell you this, Snoop Dogg ain't no wrestler. He's bigger than that." Buried. Take that, Cody, you dick. Got to understand that this is the dynamics of what happened. I had a show on TBS called Go Big Show, so Cody Rhodes was one of the judges on the show, and he's one of the top dogs at AEW, so as a promotional vehicle for the gig, I went on AEW. He went on to say that WWE, when they caught wind of his appearance, they reacted as expected, saying, "Hey, you running with them? We've got to push pause on your arse for a minute," said Snoop. So apparently he stayed cool, but then they came bloody crawling back to him. Saying
this is the best bit.
That they needed him. Yeah, this is the best bit. Hey Snoop, we need you for an upcoming WWE video game, which one would assume is WWE 2K22. So maybe he can do the Sasha entrance with him at
Battlegrounds 2.
Something like
Battlegrounds 2.
Don't even say that. So there you go. I mean, this was reported a few weeks back or a month or so back by Brian Alvarez, and people were saying that it wasn't true, but there you go. There's confirmation from the man himself. What did WWE? What? He's a celebrity. He can go where he wants. He's not a WWE.
He's not
employee.
Contracted, and it's not tied in. It's awkward for sure. And you kind of back in the day, I get that they might have expected a little more. Kind of a bit of loyalty. They were a big entity in the 80s. They were a big entity in the 90s, but. You ultimately, you can't. I mean, if Pamela Anderson turned up at WrestleMania and then turned up at a WCW pay-per-view, what are they going to do?
It's not like Snoop's a massive regular either. It's not like he's on there every month. I can understand
he's
Bad
featured
Bunny,
more than,
for example,
but he's featured more than any other celebrity recently, I think, because of his involvement with Sasha's music and stuff. So maybe they thought that would be enough to kind of tie his loyalties in. But what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, whatever. I don't know. You can't get people. What are you going to do? Phone up bloody Just Eat and have a go in for doing those ads as well. Anyway, let's move on. The first ever New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Champion has been crowned, and it's none other than Tom Lawler defeating Brody King in the finals of the New Japan Pro Wrestling Cup USA tournament. Sam, this isn't something I know a huge amount about. Talk me through
so New Japan Strong is part of New Japan's US expansion, and the New Japan Cup USO tournament was a tournament to crown the first of these champions. The win netted him the honor of being the first, as we said, and he's currently signed to MLW alongside his New Japan appearances.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. He's really good, isn't he? He's cool.
Yeah, he's
him.
also an active mixed martial artist as well. He's got a 10 wins, 7 losses record. So he's a hard and scary man. So
yeah, 7 losses.
It's
not that good,
well,
is it?
but
if he does see this, I'm just saying.
Look at him. He'll batter you. He will batter all of us.
I can see the picture, and I'm not that impressed. Actually, filthy Tom Lawler. You're talking to the real filth bag, Adam Pacitti here.
I'd imagine that the strong title's probably going to lead to some sort of stint over in Japan. When Kenta won the tournament last time, he got a shot against Moxley. So there's a little bit of back and forth on things. But I reckon that they're trying to build that brand up. They need a bit of cohesion between the US wing and the Japanese wing of New Japan.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Surely we're going to see some sort of bleed over there.
Yeah, for sure. Finishing off with a few interesting notes from the Kurt Angle podcast, saying that he originally might have gone to WCW, but there was one man that put him off that, and that was Ric Flair. Apparently he called Flair and said, would it be smart to come to WCW? And Flair just said, hell no. No way. You go to WWE. Vince will take care of you. Do not come to WCW. They're going to bury you. And he also has been talking about how he was considered, maybe even lined up to be the first ever WWE Undisputed Champion. Apparently he was handpicked by Vince for that position, but slowly they realised that Jericho was more over with the fans, leading to Jericho becoming the inaugural champion there. I think Jericho was actually probably the right shout, even though the reign itself wasn't magnificent. It really did make Jericho, and Kurt had such a strong debut and few years in WWE where he didn't really need that extra feather in his cap.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Whenever I think back to that time, it was it was a bit naff, wasn't it? But like at the same time, just the image of him with both belts, that's like a part of my childhood that's burned in. That just the way he would swan around with them both, and yeah, it was. I mean, Angle would have been amazing, and we could have seen some really interesting stuff. But I think you're right. I don't think he needed it. Angle had already had such a big moment, like with big moments throughout his entire run.
He did a lot, didn't he? What a debut year he had, and moving forward.
To be honest, I feel robbed. I feel robbed that we never got to see some sweet Kurt Angle versus Buff Daddy matches. With him getting jobbed
God
out.
God bless Ric Flair. What a guy!
Scott
what a
Steiner,
guy!
Olympic gold medalist.
Right, I am off to continue painting my bedroom, Sam. So you have a nice rest of your day. I'm covered.
I will.
That. Ooh,
right,
see you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.